And so today, of course, is our showcase for our recent Halloween scoring assignment. And so before we play back the cues, whenever we do our scoring assignment playback, we always use it as an opportunity to review clips. So I want everybody to really watch. I know some people on here, a lot of musicians that play live gigs, study music and things. They probably think, oh, the clips is just really not my cup of tea. I don't really think I need to use something like that. But in fact, there's a lot to it. So I've got a demonstration today, I think, that'll clarify in very simple terms how you can use clips with your everyday work. So I prepared a project here, something that I was having fun with. I mentioned I played bass on. And so let me start here in reverse order. We'll play the cue assignment. That's the one that Glenn prepared for me. And this is the actual clips review. So let's open it. It'll just take a breath to open. You can see that on my system, I have a drive. I don't always have drives mounted when I do presentations. I like to keep it really clean and simple. But a lot of the sample, I don't have the world's biggest internal hard drive on this MacBook Pro. So I have an external USB 3 drive that I keep samples on. Works pretty well. I mean, it's not a rated drive. It's not a solid state drive. It's just a spinning drive, but it works pretty well. Remember with audio, if you're just doing everyday work with samples and things like that, USB drives work well. You don't have to spend a fortune on those to get them to load correctly. And so that's what's hosting some of my virtual instruments today. So what do we have here? This is kind of fun. I created a little project covering Pee Wee Ellis's The Chicken. Obviously it's a fun tune to play over. It's got some great changes. Jaco Pastorius always had it in his set list. Everyone knows The Chicken. You always hear people playing it. And so this is just basically, look, 16 bars. So if you think of it, it's there's a 4-bar intro, kind of lays the groundwork. And then there's like a 12-bar form, essentially. So this is just one project in here. You might think, well, let's just play it. Why do we need to turn this into clips? Well, clips is kind of interesting because, if you're going to jam, clips is a cool way to jam because you can start little sections you can extend. You could be playing something and just kind of say, hey, let's just stay in the vamp in that intro for the next 5 minutes. And that's what's so interesting about clips. Now I could use it for recording or playing live. We were just watching Rich there with the bass. He uses clips. Obviously Frosty. A lot of you guys are really getting now into clips. You're performing with a group or even a couple of musicians, and it's like, well, I can't do everything, but I don't want to just hit play on an iPad or off my phone and just have something regurgitated. I want to have the ability to improvise and create and extend things and do things and interact with the audience. That's what clips let you do. So for this example, this will be an easy one to do. Let's just use this. If we go over to clips right now, there's nothing in the land of clips. But look at the order here. Kit, congas, and so on and so forth. And you'll see here that the kit is then one of the nice contact kits. And then, of course, Stylus is hosting. You can see sliced loops of things like congas and shakers and triangles. And a nice Omnisphere Rhodes. I think it's from Keyscape, one of the nice LA Rhodes. Remember that Omnisphere and Keyscape, they can host the virtual instrument sounds inside of each of the players. There's the live. This is my 4-string Fender jazz bass. And then Omnisphere is playing a couple of the leads. Obviously the Chicken, I always think the Jaco version of it, where you have like Bob Mintzer and Randy Brecker, and, the really great musicians playing in the horn section. So this is just going to seem sort of kind of weak in a way, but it's just a synth version. It's just a fun little cover as a means of a lesson. So when we build this, what's the best way to bring this into clips? I mean, should we just do the whole thing? Well, if we do the whole thing, then it's all one big thing. It's nice to break it up and to sections. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just concentrate on the first 4 bars. All right. So, and could I go in and duplicate the chunk? I mean, we could. I went to Shift C. Here it is. And I could just copy and paste and make a duplicate. In other words, whatever work I do in here today, I might do a save as version to keep a duplicate, but I might just make another chunk. That's a copy. And now I'm going to work off this version knowing that this version is there. And by the way, it's not taking up any additional resources or anything like that. It's just firing off, but it's now something I could use as a backup. So we don't need this left sidebar. Remember, Shift right bracket will close the sidebar. So the first 4 bars. Now I'm going to hold the control key and I'm just going to select the first 4 bars for the kit, congas, and so on and so forth, and the bass. You'll see now deliberately I've left out the leads. Okay. The melody is left out, and I'll explain here in a minute. You guys know intuitively why I'm doing this, but I'll explain it in detail. We're not going to select that right now. All I have to do right now is simply copy, just like I always do on any program. I Command-C copy, or Control-C on Windows. When I go into clips, the order of the tracks is exactly the same. So I go into clips and I go kit, congas, and so on and so forth. They're all there. Scenes. Okay, remember that a scene, and we'll talk about this, is a way to play a row. I mean, a scene is a row, essentially. What am I going to put in the row? Well, if I just click on the kit and paste, boom, that's it. I've taken the first 4 bars of those instruments, I've copied them, I've come into clips, I've taken scene 1, that row, and I pasted it in. That's it. So now, and I won't play this a million times so you guys get tired of hearing it, but I'll kind of build it, and eventually we'll do like a quote little performance of it, right? So now it's interesting. Do I have to worry about how it did? Like, did it do a good job? Could there be more, or less? Could there be a problem with the length? I mean, whenever you tell DP to find a very accurate set of points here, this is 4 deliberate bars, full 4 bars, and I come in here, can I check them? Sure. I double click on this and I look at it. It opens up what's called the grid editor, or excuse me, the clip editor. The clip editor. Clip editor shows me that this is exactly 4 bars. Now, by default, it's set to loop. Now, and I'll show an example here a little bit later where I'm going to turn off this option, but this is on by default, meaning that when I play one or either this individual clip by hitting play or playing the entire row, when it gets to the end of its duration, those 4 bars, it just starts over. It just plays. It could go for the next 2 hours. It's just going to play, and you're going to practice and work. And it's fun sometimes. You guys know as musicians, sometimes it's nice to woodshed over grooves and listen and things like that. It's fun. It kind of, because it works on your time, works on your feel. And it's fun to do it that way. So, I mean, this could certainly be used for lessons. It could be used for practice. It could be used for performance. So do I have to check these? Now, they're in good shape. I don't really need to worry about that. DP does a good job of making that determination. Only once in a while where you might be doing something where there's a long note or there's a held note or there's a sustained note where it might be a question mark about the duration. All of these are going to be perfect. Even the digital audio of my bass is exactly right. So this is all good, and the level looks pretty good. I could gain it up a little bit, but I think it's fine. It blends in just fine. So I've got the first 4 bars created. Now it's interesting. Before we do the next section, it might be a smart idea. What if I duplicate and I paste it again? Here's why. If I hit play here, it's going to play this row. If I hit play here, it's going to play the row. Now, this row is exactly the same thing, but this row could be something else. It could be different versions of these, or take certain elements out. So why don't we do that? If you think to yourself, okay, this is the version that's everything. This is the version that's fewer things. I think, okay, well, it'd be nice to have no congas is so let's just take I'm going to highlight. It's highlighted with the hand. I delete that out and say, well, let's do more of a breakdown version. So congas is more of an additive element, so I'll take it out. Shaker's kind of fundamental, so we'll take the triangle out for sure. That goes. Now, here's something interesting. If I play the first row or first scene and it's playing, and I play the second row or the second scene, the conga that came in the first scene is going to keep playing. It's just going to keep playing. Like, it's not going to get removed when I play the scene 2 or row 2. So in order for me to make sure that this element goes away, I'm going to create an empty clip. And so you can see it's highlighted. And it's funny, let me just go back into clips here and I'll double click here. Oh, actually, I'll just right click to rename the clip, and I'm just going to call it empty, which is like empty, only even shorter. And I'm going to say, well, we're going to set this clip color, And this is a little trick here, is to make your empty clips stand out. It'd be nice to go through here, by the way, if you were really going to do a show and you thought, well, I'm going to color code all my drums a certain color, all my percussion elements and vocals and basses and things. I'm going to go through here and really right click and get all the colors really tidy. It might be nice in a way if there was a preference where it would inherit the name of the track, or you could do more with preferences, but you would just name those and color those as you wanted to. Now, I've got an empty clip here. I'm going to take this hand and option drag this over. So in other words, as I play scene 1, it plays. If I hit scene 2, this empty clip will push these elements, conga and triangle, out because I don't want to hear them anymore. Does that make sense? Hopefully you guys understand that if you don't have these empty clips, they keep playing. Whatever's playing down below will keep playing. I want to push them out. Now, it's interesting, by the way, look at my bass here. If I wanted to take this empty clip right here, this MT, and copy it over here into the bass, it looks grayed out. And it's interesting that it even takes. I think part of the reason why they did this is because this environment is very fluid. It's very, don't stop the transport, don't complain, don't bark, just go, 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 go. But in fact, this doesn't work because this is a MIDI clip on an audio track. So I would need to create another clip here, and I could come in here and say empty, and right click and choose the color and make it a dark blue, so I always know when I'm looking at it. And of course, if I have a pad controller connected, the pad controller will reflect the colors that I'm using. And I can just look down at the pad and go, oh, there's the dark blue, that's the mute, that's the empty. Now, maybe I could even do one more row. So this, I might just move down here. I'm not sure we're gonna need that, although it might be nice to have a version. So why don't we do this? I still have the paste, by the way, right? In other words, if I highlight this and paste, let's do a real breakdown. I was just thinking, you have, let's say, the bass and conga, right? You think about, kind of reminds me of like, this is some cool things you could do with that. So let's just take out the kit. Well, we're going to keep the conga, and we're going to keep the bass. So we're going to pull these elements out. It's just going to be conga, bass. And so what we're going to do is I want to actually copy these here. Copy this here. I'm just option dragging. And so now we've basically got, and now it's interesting, I could keep creating different versions of it. In fact, with time permits, and I don't think we're going to have time today, I could create a scene based on that opening 4 bars, and then I could have it transposed. I could go into each of the elements. Now, this isn't something that would transpose the kits and the congas. The Rhodes certainly would transpose up a half step or full step or whatever. The bass would, digital audio transposition in DP. I could play different scenes at different keys. By the way, all of these scenes play with the conductor track or a slider, tempo slider. So either a fixed tempo or even a varied tempo. Clips that are fired in play will actually follow that tempo. So we've done the first thing. Can we just test it real quick? So one of the things I like to do, and you'll see here, is if we just go out to bar 20 and I hit play, nothing's playing right now because I'm beyond the timeline. Let's just test to see what we have so far. Let's just hear the scene 3. This is going to be nothing here. It's going to be a conga element and only the live bass. So let's see what it sounds like. And I've got this. Let me just hit stop here for a moment. Look down here, everybody. This is the grid boundary in a way. It is the grid boundary. When I hit play and something plays, and I'm listening and listening and listening, this is the grid. This is the sort of the grid duration, meaning that in a lot of ways you can think of it as, hey, I have 4 beats. I'm in 4/4 time. I have 1 measure to hit to trigger another scene to have it drop down. Also think of it as digital performers. If you look at the top here, 1 measure is bar 27, bar 28, bar 29. You have the space between those bars to click and trigger individual elements or scenes, and they'll fire off, but you have the time. You have that full 4 beats so that you're performing, and you just have to kind of feel it and then do it. So let's just hear this one first. So we're listening to that. Scene 2. let's hear the first scene. 1, 2. So I hit stop. So I've got this now. I've got this 4-bar vamp, the 4-bar vamp sort of intro. I could just start jamming on it for the next 10 minutes. And I'm already off and running with clips. Clips is, now, if I didn't know clips existed, could I come in here and just set up a loop and then just take things in and out and stuff? Sure. But it's nowhere near as interactive and fun and cool and spontaneous to be able to say, hey, hey, Matt, did I have to even use the scene concept? Could I just do it a different way? Can I just do it like this? Yeah, let's just start with the kit. And then give me the congas, 3, 4. And give me the shaker, 2, 3, and. So I can do it by clicking on the individual play buttons and just kind of do it that way. But I can also do a row or a scene. It might be nice, by the way, to come over here and option click and say intro. Name this so you don't get lost in the shuffle. Now, I know that these are sort of variations, so I could say, well, intro, alt, or I could even be more specific. I don't have a million characters here, but I'll just say, well, I know that these are sort of variations of the intro. All right. And it might be nice to do a version without the bass. So maybe let's see the conga version. Let's see, here's the shaker version with the Rhodes. So why don't we actually make the second one and we'll use our empty one in place of it. So we're going to save. We've got our intro, first 4 bars. Next is the next. All we have really left is 2 more elements. We have the body or the form. Okay, so let's go grab it real quick. It won't take long at all. So I'm holding control, bars 5 through 17, that's 12 bars. I'm going to leave out the leads. We'll talk about
Matt,
that.
why are you holding control both the first time and that time? What's that doing for you?
Well, it's just you can. I don't have to hold control, but if I do it. See, watch what happens when I come up to bar 16, and I don't hold control right there. See, when I hold control, it allows me to make a selection.
So it's forcing the crosshair rather than the.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a good point, though. And it's something I've just gotten into the habit of doing. It's not always necessary, but what happens if I don't is, I have to go beyond. So for me, I just go, control. So I'm just going to grab these like this, copy. Now I'm leaving. Oh, I want the bass. Sorry, I'm going to do it again. My bad. So I'm going to grab these and we're going to copy and we're going to go back into clips. Now, it's always smart to skip a row, right? To kind of just visually. Otherwise, you're going to go, where am I? It just looks kind of difficult to see. So why don't we go all the way down here to bar 9, paste. And I'm going to rename this here form. Form. Save. That's the full element right there. That's the full element.
Just to be clear, that was scene 9, not bar 9.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Scene 9. Scene 9. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Good point. All right. So here we are. We're at form. We're looking at the form here, and we've got those 12 bars in of the full part. Now, I have a paste, so I could just do another version of it right here. And we could just say, okay, in that version of the form, okay, we're not going to add, let's see, maybe not triangle. And just think of it creatively as we're going to perform this, we're going to record this, we're going to jam here together, have fun, bring some musicians over to your studio and play. It would be nice to have, I don't want to have to think too much, but it'd be nice to have some variety. The other thing that, by the way, that's really interesting about when you're using clips in a live environment is I have, look, kit, congas, shakers, and bass and Rhodes. And so you're doing a live performance, and that day the bass player can't come, so you couldn't find a sub, so you're using the bass loops. The bass player says, no, I got it, my schedule changed, I'll be there. You mute this track, and now the bass player's playing live, and you're playing with clips, and the bass parts are left out. So whoever can't make the gig, you've got it covered by the clips that you've created. But if they can make it, if I mute it, it's good to go. It's going to stay that way. So in here, now I can just borrow. I can just copy, paste. I can option drag. So I could say, okay, well, so I've got a version of the form, and I could call this form alt, whatever. We'll leave it alone for the time being. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Let's test this, by the way. I'll go to bar 50. Is anything playing right now? No. So I'm going to play just to test, we're going to play the 12 bar form, at least just a few bars of it to make sure it's good. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, so we've kind of got the feel happening there. This is good. So now there's two more things we're going to do, which is the melody. Why didn't we get the melody before? The melody starts as a pickup into bar 5. If I would have copied the melody with the first 4 bars and played it, we'd hear 2 notes and go, oh, just ignore that. What was that little sound? I heard like the little lead play 2 notes. Yeah, that was the pickup, but I didn't know how to work with that. So I included it in the first 4 bars. I didn't want to do that. I want to do this legitimately. If I decided, well, let's just do the 12 bar form from bar 5 to bar 17, I'll get the downbeat of the melody, but I won't get the pickup. How do we get the best of both worlds? What we do is we copy a bar before. And now when we copy this, and we're going to paste it in, watch where we paste it. It's just 2 tracks, right? So I'm going to paste it, and I'll paste it right here. Paste. So I have the 2 lead elements, and they're on their own scene. Why are they on a scene? Because I don't want to have to play them quickly like this. I won't be able to do that. I want to be able to hit this button. I'm going to label this melody. Save. Now, here's where it gets a little bit interesting. Look at this triangle right here. Let me actually zoom in a little bit. And let me show you what this looks like from the beginning of this, if we go all the way down. When I play bar 4, I've got 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, ba-da-da. So when we talked about the grid here, well, if I need to start these a bar before I trigger the form. When I trigger the leads, I need to trigger them a bar before I trigger the form. And that way I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, ba-da-da. You see? So you just have to kind of, talk and chew gum, practice it, label it, work it out, do it. Is there another way to do it? No, not really. Because if you want to separate the intro, if you're good with the whole thing being one big clip and you can improvise with that, great. But if you wanted to break it up, then you're going to want to think of the melody as a separate scene. And it's not a big deal. The last thing we're going to do, by the way, and this is kind of a fun little thing, is the ending. And then I'll do a little jam to show you guys how this works. But let's just practice together, making sure that the leads are syncing up with the form. So let me just, again, I'm going out just past the timeline. You're probably wondering right now, why do we need to do that? Like if I go back to bar 1 right now, let's talk about this for a second. Nothing's playing right now, right? And I'm at bar 1. If I hit intro and it starts playing, these are going to play. Why are these going to play? Because they're going to play because there's nothing in the timeline. There's nothing in the clip. It's going to play what's actually in the timeline. I don't want to hear what's in the timeline. So for me personally, I either could put dummy clips in there or I just go out in the timeline past where there's nothing. So for me, and you guys see me do this, everybody has their own method. I think of this as my work area. When I'm going to perform or do something, I'm going to do it past the work area. I'm going to do it out here. DP can go to 10,000 bars. Don't worry about how far you want to go out there. Actually, it's 9,999, I think, to be exact. All right, so that's why we go out in the timeline, because that nothing in the timeline will play. We're past the timeline. So let's just practice real quick. In fact, we'll just do a very quick. We'll do intro 4 bars, we'll do the leads, and then we'll do a form, and we'll go all the way through it just to make sure that it's working. Let's try it. All right, so I'm going to hit play. And I'll start with the big 2 and 3 and 1. let me get a clean start here. Let me just hit this out here. I want a clean start. 2, 3, trigger, 4, okay, so it's working just fine. I can play my intro, and I'm counting 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Play this, trigger this so that it plays. When it plays, it's going to start at the next bar 4, but it doesn't play till the end of bar 4, and boom, it comes in at bar 5 after the pickup. I play the form at bar 5. We're off and running. We're playing or jamming. This is great. Now, what's playing down here? When it finishes playing those 12 bars, if I left it alone, we would just be playing back-to-back forms. And that might just be a cool thing. That's what you really want to do. You want to practice. And at any point, I can come down here, by the way, and individually close or mute or delete is really what's happening, the elements that I don't want to hear. Or I can just say, everybody stop. The last thing we're going to do before we do our performance, by the way, is let's do an ending. Let's do an ending. Now, I have an idea. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's take the last bar, bar 16. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so I'm going to take, holding control, I'm going to highlight and copy, and we're going to paste it right here. Paste, and we're going to call this, and let's see here, bar 16. And now check this out, everybody. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to call this end. Now, these are all set to loop. But I want to go through here now, and I'm going to not loop this version of the ending. So what I want to end up with is, if I hit bar 16, it'll go dee 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 dee. It's just going to let me do a little turnaround, a little ending. And I can go as many times as I want. I could do it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, as long as everybody's on the same page. And when I'm ready and I fire off the end one, I want it to literally stop. Don't loop anymore. How do I do it? Could I just do it by killing the other ones? I don't trust myself. I don't want to have to think about that if I'm playing an instrument. So I'm going to open up and turn off the loop, and it would be super handy if we had a faster way to do it across multiple tracks, and something I'll keep asking the developers for, but it's not a big deal. We'll just do it together, and hopefully I can just get into a rhythm here and turn off this so you guys can hear my little performance. Is that making sense, Adam, as I do this? Is everybody kind of following along?
I think for the most part, you're in good shape.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're almost to the point where I'm going to do this little performance. And hopefully you guys are understanding that clips it's just the thing that you have to kind of just spend time and practice and play with, but it's not difficult. All you have to do to feed it something is just highlight stuff. Highlight what you want to put in there, a bar, 4 bars, a full 16 bars, different sections, and then simply go into clips and paste them. And then if
Matt,
you...
just for clarity, because I think there is a little bit of confusion in very general terms of the purpose of clips, is that it's a specific type of playback engine. It's a way of taking portions or snippets or whatever and making it play them either independently or in groups with other parts. You get to pick and choose what's playing back when, rather than having everything in the timeline. You have to manipulate and put things specifically in locations in the timeline. It's more of a freehand way of making certain things play back when you trigger them.
Yeah, I mean, think of it. Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to describe it. It's like a container. It's like, hey, this is a little cell right here. This little cell is hosting 90 bars of something. It could be something massively huge, but for most of us musicians, it's a 1 or 2 or 4 or 8 bar, 16 bar phrase. It's something musical that we want to be able to individually say, hey, you play, just keep playing and looping. I want to listen to you for a while. And then, hey, I want to add you to that. and so on and so forth. And so you can be playing things individually and stacking things and playing, or you can be a little bit more kind of deliberate and think of an arrangement and put those into scenes, or think of this as rows. I want to play the whole row. And this is a much more interactive environment. I can't do these things honestly without clips. I just can't. I can't really play and trigger these things with mutes, and it would just, even if I had a control surface and I had three guys there, okay, we're all going to practice, it's Queen mixing, Bohemian Rhapsody before automation or something. You guys are going to hit these. Why do we need to do all that craziness when I can just do it all with clips? I can just program the things that I want to hear, whether individually or by scene or row.
I think that overview is helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And again, you just have to there is a clips video that I created. It's on MOTU's YouTube channel, and it's a good place to go. And after today, and go, I get it, but I kind of don't get it. And you can see how I did it there. But I think hopefully this is sinking in what we did by individually grabbing just the intro, the form, and then putting this in by itself. And then remember that we did the ending, and now we have a different version of the ending. What we did is, so now let's just rehearse the ending here. We're going to go out to bar 20. I'm going to hit play. We're going to listen to it here. Okay, so I'm going to try bar 16 here. Let's hear it. So, it gets a little squirrely, it sounds a little bit repetitive, but hopefully you'll have a live player or something where it's just going to have a little bit more vibe, and again, it depends on how you're going to use it and the parts that you create. So, but you get the idea that I created what is one potential ending, which is just, hey, I like that blues riff as the end. That's a really cool thing. And I want to just repeat that for a couple of times. Maybe that was one too many. I play it twice, and during the second time that it plays, I trigger the end. And what happens is, remember that by default, all clips will loop. Look at the duration. Can I change the duration? Of course I can. I can say, hey, this should start a bar later, a beat later, this should end. But in a way, what's nice is I always think to myself, I don't use the clips window to do edit points and do things like that and do loop points. I do my work mentally here. Here is where I say, I want the clip to be bar 9 and 10. And when I come into here with bar 9 and 10, and I paste it in, I know it's exactly what I want. I'm going to undo. So to me, it cuts down on sort of the anxiety or the extra work or I don't understand loops and all this. No, it just copy it from the sequence editor, from the tracks window, and then paste it in. So let's just do a little performance of this. It'll be kind of a fun thing here. I'm going to clear out what's playing. And then so you guys can see that now that we've done the work, and now we're thinking, hey, we've got a laptop, and we've got a few players that are going to play live, and we're just going to do it spontaneously. We might just do the intro for a long time, and somebody's talking, and we've got somebody's going to play some trumpet, and then when we all give the nod, we're going to go into the form. By the way, it's not you sitting there with a mouse on the side with your big Mac or PC on the side of the stage. You've got this really cool little pad controller from Novation, which, by the way, is plugged into my system. I could come up here into setup, and I could configure it from obviously setup, automation setup, or control surface setup. So in control surface setup, we can come in here and I have the Launchpad Mini. That's what I have. So once you would select it, I decided today, well, you guys can't really see it, and it's not going to benefit me. But what's nice about it is when I do select it, all of these show up, and that's where it is nice to have color coding. It really is nice to have color. So on stage, because you've rehearsed it a bunch in your studio, like Frosty has his set up that way. And you're not thinking about the computer. Computer's back behind the stage or below you or whatever to the side of you. And you're just thinking your instrument, you've got the pads, you've rehearsed it, you know what's what. So here's my little performance. Why don't we start with just a single element, and I'll just kind of build it. Now, I won't do it now, but what's really cool about clips is it could just be improvised and it's all sort of real time. And you think, well, why would I do it if I can't ever kind of recreate it? I can recreate it. Here's how. When you're up here and you hold the Option or Alt key and you click on the record button, it looks different, has a different look to it. What this is clips record. When I hit record and I play just the conga element, I'll stop it. I'll come out of record, go back to the tracks window. I've recorded that performance. Now that would be everything that I did. I could do a whole 10-minute improv and I wanted to capture it so that, by the way, not only did I just capture it so I can play it back, I can edit it. I can say, well, I made a mistake. I needed to extend that. I need to fix this, or I think I was, whatever. It's not capturing the performance in regards to like, oh, the velocities, you played it too loud and too soft. What it's capturing is the playback, the sequence at which you played the individual clips or the rows or scenes. So it's really cool that you can record your clip performance and then go back later and say, hey, we're going to re-edit the video. Do you have that performance? I do. I captured it all. Is that a problem? Could you be playing live instruments and recording and triggering clips at the same time? Sure. Yeah, you can. So let's just do a little performance here. Bar 20. I might even just set up an auto rewind here so that if I wanted to start and stop, I'm past the timeline and I hit play. There's nothing. We go into clips and I think, okay, it's kind of fun. We'll just start it like this. So it's just a fun thing where we're able to use with a simple little 16-bar kind of sequence that you've already created. You've already created this interesting, we all have, 1,000 projects of MIDI and audio things. Did it have to be MIDI, Matt? No. Did I have to have a VRAC? No. What happens? There's nothing to it. You don't have to pre-bake or change your whole way of thinking. There's nothing difficult about clips. Honestly, there's nothing to it. All of your cues, all of you have hundreds, if not thousands of pieces you've written that you could turn into clips instantly and start enjoying and having fun with it. And it's nothing to it, not breaking anything. Nothing in here gets moved or changed. You've just created what is a whole interesting way to play back. And now you use it with your students, you use it with interactions, you do it on a live gig. That's what that's what's so cool. That's so neat to me to think that here's Digital Performer, this towering program for film composers. It's got all these great notation features. It's surround. It does all these insanely good things. And it does clips and chunks and VRACs and ARA and MPE. It's unbelievably powerful, absurdly powerful. Now, each chunk has its own clips environment. Clips is not a VRAC. Clips is not a global thing. Clips is unique to each sequence or chunk. All right, so that's my fun little groove for the day. And now let's go over to the assignment. And this is fun. So we're going to close this and we'll save it. And then we'll go over to our cue assignment. Okay, so remember, guys, the assignment was, and you know that to produce a Halloween cue, a fun house or horror, 40 seconds was the maximum length. I think everybody hit that except for maybe a couple, but not the end of the world. One submission, and it has to have one live element, a proverb. It has to have at least one MOTU virtual instrument, and so on and so forth. So we had 24 entries, which is great. And you guys did a really cool job. I can't wait to play these for everybody. Halloween cues, and we're almost to Halloween, which is a fun holiday. I'm really impressed, by the way, with everybody's work. You know, I think not only the writing, the production. You know, hopefully you guys are improving from all these great webinars and all the community of people that we all share our concepts and our guests, and we learn to improve. And so I'm really blown away by what you guys are doing. So it'll be fun to hear it. And so so here's what I have here. We're in a separate project in DP. I decided let's just keep those separate. And so I have this, and I'll go over here to what Glenn sent me. And this is great. So it keeps it very organized, and I really appreciate Glenn. We all love Glenn taking all those submissions and keeping everything nice and organized. And so we'll get into the comments here in just a second. So here we have a list of, it's not everything because I think we had a couple of last minute entries. So I decided, well, there's no need for me to put those in both chunks. So I just did my version of it, which is a duplicate. Remember that you have a sequence and you thought, well, I'm going to do a variation of that sequence. You can copy and paste it. So in my version, let me just go over to it. I basically decided, well, I want to have the person's name. That way, when we're in the clips window, you may not see the name of the actual, the cue, but more importantly, you'll see at least the first name, if not the last name of the person, the composer. So that was kind of important. So I went through here and named everything and just kind of changed the color. Now, one quick thing that I wanted to do, by the way, and notice that nothing's playing right now. We're going to actually create this. So let's just create, if we go up here, I was thinking about this, more or less 25 cues. So is everything going to be its own, should they all just be their own clip? I mean, in other words, should they all just be one clip on their own, scene? I thought, no, it might be nice to kind of keep it a little more simple in a way. By the way, when you're doing something like this, I thought, well, it might be neat to go through here. If I had time, I would go, oh, let me see if I can find the keys and see if I can overlap and play a couple of these cues at the same time. Or maybe someone did something that's really sound design, and I'll play another element that can phantom be on top of it. And said, oh, let's not worry about that. But you could certainly do it that way. So what I'm going to do is simply create, how about 5 playback tracks? 5 playback tracks. So here they are. And I'm just going to name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why do I have to do that? Can't I just use these tracks for playback? Sometimes it's just visually, when I show these in the clips window, it's just visually easier for me to see it that way. But to each his own. You could certainly use these tracks for playback. You can always play back clips on a pre-existing track, even if there's something that already lives in the track. But I like to do it this way. In fact, let me just change the color of these tracks. You guys know the trick. Hold the letter T and change this to something like green. Now, a lot of these tracks, by the way, are really hot. I have... and Glenn had, there's a compressor and a limiter is always kind of a good idea to, watch some of the peaks. But some of these are really loud, and I get that you guys know that we're living in a world where sometimes that's the difference between your stuff being heard and competing against other stuff. But one thing that I might do, just visually, is just come through here. And you guys know, if I do any byte gain changes, like if I knock this down by 2, Doug's, I will knock it down by 3. Why am I doing this? In a way, that way they're all more consistent. This is a very unscientific approach, but I'm just going through here and just looking at that. We can leave that this. Well, we'll take this down. I'm just going to go through here. I'm highlighting. My shortcut is the letter N. And I'm just making sure, I'm just visually, unscientifically, that in fact, I might just bring that one up. This looks good. Ads looks good. Adams is pretty hot. We'll drop it down just a notch. and so on and so forth. This is an unscientific way to just kind of make sure that the playing field is kind of more level. And, this is the kind of thing, by the way, where you're doing it for a production company, or if you're doing it for a library company. It's interesting. Sometimes if it's really, really, really hot, I guess you'll just have to kind of decide what works for you. Sometimes it's a question of so I'm going to knock Michael Canavan's is cool. It's a little bit hot, and so on and so forth. And so I'm just doing this very quickly and making sure the rest of these all look good. All right. Now what's cool is when I copy these into clips, the byte gain goes with it. Anything that I would have done, a fade and so on and so forth. And I have, again, just a little bit of very gentle compression and limiting just to keep us out of the red and keep it all sort of nice and tight sounding. So how are we going to do this? Like, what's the best way? Well, I think the fastest way, and I didn't do this in advance because I knew I was going to actually want to byte gain these. I'm going to take these and copy these and go into the clips window. And we've got our greens, and so we're just going to paste. And so I'm just going to, you guys will just bear with me, and it won't take me long. It'll take me 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, here it is. Here's our 5. We go back into clips, and we just paste. And at least I remember from this, I can just see it. 3, 4, 5, copy, clips, paste. Almost there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, copy, paste. By the way, what's nice about doing it, like, if I did like, I see that Michael Kahneman's next. If I would highlight space, I wouldn't want that. You guys notice that when I'm selecting it, I'm clicking and holding Shift. Copy. And now I've got them all. Paste. Save. So we can use this track selector to hide these. And now we only have our tracks to play back. So we're getting ready to play these back, which is kind of fun. And so these are obviously in no order. They're not in alphabetical order. They're just in the order that Glenn gave me. And the latest entries were at the bottom. So nothing scientific about or any kind of thought out change to the order. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe just think, well, should I go left or right? Or should I go top to bottom? I think top to bottom. Now, how am I going to know? I thought about that. I'm like, well, how do I know when one's getting to the end? Well, I can look up here and go, I know it should be around 40 seconds. But what's neat is you guys can see down here that this is, in fact, a really nice sort of clock sweeping progress meter. It's a clock sweeping. It will tell me, as soon as I hit play on one of them, it'll sort of tell me the number of beats. And it'll sweep. So I'll know with a little bit to go that when it's getting near the end, because I kind of want to make this a performance where we don't start and stop. It'd be maybe neat if we had where people could applaud if we were in a live situation, but we want it to be more of a seamless Halloween playback. So I somewhere near the end, I'm going to trigger the next thing, and it'll give me a bar. It'll give me a bar to make it. I don't want to overlap it, but if it does, it does. So let's do it. Everybody's got a comfortable chair, and we're just going to check it out. So we'll start, and we'll go again, top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom. And so let's just hit play.
Hai interesse a un corte naturale con
So again, great job. Thank you for participating, everybody. It's really fun to see your work and, so many talented musicians we have on here. What a great community. Thank you all for being here. So let's just wrap. It's Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And thank you, Adam and Glenn, for all of your work.